Thank you so much for coming. I am Dr. Barbara Tucker, the very proud principal here at Fort Daniel Elementary School. I have the privilege and honor of serving your students and the community of the Kewah, so very, very exciting. We do know that students are most successful when there's a partnership between parents and the school. So we really, really thank you that you took out time to be with us today. I do have just a couple of quick announcements to share with you, some things that are coming up. We do have a PTA meeting that will be happening on October 5th, and that will be at 10 o'clock a.m. here at the school. I'm not sure if they're going to be sending out a registration list for that, but it is a limited capacity. We are trying to honor social distancing and all of that good stuff, so they'll share how they'll send that out. And then on October 14th, we will have Literacy Night and our Hispanic Heritage Celebration, so we hope that you come out and join us for that, and that will be October 14th from 5 o'clock to 7 o'clock. Information will be shared. We're going to be sending home a flyer as well as information on our website about those events. So just a little bit about our presenter today. We have Ms. Brenda Hitchcock. She is our instructional coach for the school. So she supports teachers with the best practices and strategies for teaching our students. She is very well known in Gwinnett County Public Schools. She's presented at the district level to teachers all over the school district. So we are very fortunate to have her here at Fort Daniel. So without further ado, Ms. Brenda Hitchcock.
Good morning, everyone. Okay, so today, our objectives are we want to review some key areas of literacy learning, beginning of the year and end of the year expectations for reading. We're going to look at math, K-5, and then ways to support our students in reading and math. Okay, so rule number one, I'm going to say it, read, 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 and then read some more with your child every day. This is so important, and we know that research shows that when our students are reading well, then their graduation rates are higher, which also stems into their career path. And so reading is just so important, and it transcends all content areas. So reading is just so important with our children. Reading is the key to success. Okay, so I want to share this diagram. This is actually something that is on our county site. These are the key areas of literacy learning, and we consider these to be the Great 8, because these are all areas that students need in order to be successful in literacy. We're going to go through these and talk to you a little bit about what each of these are, and then ways that you can also support your students with them. Okay, so the first one is phonemic awareness. Phonemic awareness is the ability to focus on and manipulate individual sounds in spoken word. So this has nothing to do with print. This is clearly just hearing the sounds. And some of the ways that you can support your students: read stories and poems that include those rhyming words. Play sound games together when you can say, hey, I spy my little eye, something that begins with a sound. So it's just all about sound. Clapping the number of words in a sentence, sounds in a word, or syllables in a word, okay? So, and just know that these resources, all of these notes will be shared with you. Okay, so phonics. Phonics is the ability to apply your knowledge of letter-sound relationships. So this is when the print comes into place here. And ways that you can support your students with that is building words with magnetic letters, writing words together on a whiteboard, just sorting words or objects that have the same phonics pattern, using those ABC charts. I know that kindergarten and for sure definitely sends those home with students, so definitely doing work with those. Labeling pictures and photographs with sticky notes. Most definitely, you know, let's find all of the neat pictures in our house and we're going to label those with a sticky note. All of those things help with phonics. Fluency. Fluency is reading accurately and with expression. chunking words into phrases, and using pausing appropriately. So fluency is not just reading fast, and that's what a lot of our kids think, that they're like, oh, I read it really fast. Your fluency, it should still sound as though you're talking. So we just want to make sure fluency is not just reading fast. It's not reading fast at all. It's actually we're using the appropriate pauses, and we just don't want kids to be thinking that it's speed reading. And so with that, encourage rereading of favorite books. A lot of times you'll see your students bringing home books, and they've had it in their bag for a while. Teacher may want them to go ahead and to be working on fluency. So the more that they're reading, it should sound like it's talking. They should be developing that expression. So that's why they'll have some of the same books in their bag. Okay? So practice reading aloud to model those different reading expressions and phrasing in the voice. Kids need to hear that. Ask your child whether their reading was too fast or too slow, or bumpy, or was it smooth, because we want it to be smooth. Simply using your phone to even record your child reading a number of times is really helpful, because some of the first recordings are probably not going to sound as smooth, but then when they can hear that, then they will know that, oh, okay, let me try it again, and then we can work on that fluency that way. Vocabulary. So vocabulary refers to the words we must understand to communicate effectively. And so ways that we can support our children with that, discuss vocabulary words in the book. So when you're reading and you go over a word, and it may be a word that's not familiar to your child, talk about it. Engage in conversations using those key vocabulary words, and introduce new vocabulary through shared experiences. So if you happen to go someplace and maybe, I don't know, an aquarium, that there's a new term, then talk about it. You don't want to just skim over it. Use that opportunity to talk about what it really means. Label, draw, and act out words to reinforce the meaning of words, and encourage the use of synonyms and antonyms for broadening vocabulary also. When you're talking in a word, oh, well, this is another word for happy, any of those things will also help to develop vocabulary. So comprehension, and when we think about what we've talked about earlier with phonemic awareness, phonics, fluency, vocabulary, that all falls into supporting that comprehension. Because comprehension is the understanding and interpretation of what is being read. If our kids are having issues with all of the previous areas that we talked about, this suffers. Our kids they're being too laborious, and those words that comprehension is broken down, and that's not what we want to happen. So we want to make sure that we're supporting all of those areas. And so we want kids to be, engaged and motivated, because if they're not engaged in that text, then being able to talk about it and understand it is going to be a struggle. And we know reading is all about thinking. Our kids can have a well-known vocabulary and know lots of words, but if they don't understand what they've read, they're not able to talk about it, then you know what, then that is not the text for them, okay? So when we are reading with our kids, make sure that they can tell you about it and they can discuss it. Because if they can't, then they've lost the big picture of what reading is truly about. So supporting comprehension at home. Select books based on interests and preview them before reading. Because like I said, with reading, with that comprehension, engagement is key. And at home, they can have lots of choice as to what they're reading. So definitely, talk about what are you interested in? What do you want to know about? Even as for some of our kids who are really stuck on those video games, hey, you know what? Let's read some books that actually tell us about, maybe kids who develop games or how it got started. But find that interest and then go ahead and have conversation with them about that. And so that sort of sets that preface for them to even begin to read those texts and to understand. Encourage rereading. A lot of our friends want to read it once and think that they're done. No, reread it, and so then let's confront to make sure that we truly understand what we just read. Okay? Discuss books and retell or summarize them together. Ask questions. If your kids have read and they come over to you, I'm done with my reading, tell me about what you've read. Let's talk about it. And then if you know the name of the character in there, tell me, why did this happen? You know, so definitely give them ask questions, and if they're to the point where they can't answer them, let's let them go back and read those again. Make connections between books and past experiences, and help your child go back to the text to support his or her answers. So if it is a text that you guys have read together, you've asked questions about it, and they're not sure, you know what, tell them, hey, let's look back into the text. What does the text tell us about that? Okay, so writing. Reading and writing go together, always. Even if your students can keep a little journal of maybe some of the things that they liked about some of the books that they're reading, that is a fabulous way, because we like to tell kids that what they can read, they can write, and what they can write, they can read. So writing is the process of using words and punctuation to communicate information that others can read. So ways to support that. Write at home together. Read books together and discuss the author's writing. Your kids, when you are reading a text together, then you know what, you have experts that have done the writing because they're authors. But most definitely let your child know too, you can also be an author. You like what that author just did in that book? Let's try it in some of your writing. Let's write our own story. Retell favorite stories again and again, and then write them down to read together. And retelling, that oral rehearsal is so important, especially for our younger writers. So when they are writing and they want to do a story, have them to tell you the story. So that then that way they're practicing it, because if they can say it, then they can write it. So definitely let them go ahead, okay, so tell me your story, what is your story going to be about? And let them have that oral rehearsal. Great thing to do, write a thank you letter to someone or a little note. I know that a lot of people don't do snail mail as much, but it is really nice that they could go ahead and they could write a little note to someone. Definitely want our kids writing. Collecting their writing through the year and looking back to see the growth over time, that's very powerful. Okay, so then speaking and listening. They are the ways that we communicate to share information and seek to understand information from others. So, set aside, a few minutes to have a focused conversation with your student. Model listening behaviors. And then talk about what is interesting, and then have them to maybe add more details. I know some of the students will come up and be like, oh, you know what, how was school today? Fine. Well, you know what? We're going to tell me more. And then if they say, well, I did this, well, can you give me some details? And, and just start to add that, because we really do. We want our kids to, to be able to carry on a conversation. And all of this there again, if they can tell you, then they can write it also. So, reading allows you to do something with ideas that from your experiences. And we really, really want to be able to support students in all of these areas so that they can do that. Okay, so now I want to talk to you a little bit about a level. I know that a lot of you are familiar with the words. You've heard, oh, my child is this level, this, that, and the other. Is that something that we're familiar with here, or is what the levels are? I want to give you a little information about that. Reading levels are valuable tools for our teachers. We use those. They're not labels for our students. Okay, so we use just that level information to make good decisions about instruction. And they also serve as a measurement of the growth. So with that, it's analyze characteristics of what a reader would do at that level. That's what that is. So at an instructional level, that's with teaching and support. That's the text that your student can read with teacher support. And then their independent level are the texts that they are bringing home, because those are texts that your children can easily read and understand on his or her own. So when you all do come for conferences, your teachers will be talking to you and sharing their independent level. And so those are levels that your students can read on their own without support. In school, they are getting support with instructional levels. So they are a bit more of a challenge that we're teaching them and giving them the tools to be able to process that text. So we wanted to look a little bit at expectations for our students. If we look at the first book here, this is kindergarten. I put beginning of the year up here, but it's really more so like an October, November expectation, because a lot of our friends who do come in kindergarten, they are not yet to the point to where they can read this, but our teachers are supporting them, and so that hopefully by October, November, that they are able to read a level A text, which is, you can see here, the dog is running. And so with here, when they are beginning in kindergarten, readers are just beginning to learn how print works. So they understand that there are relationships between sounds and letters, and they learn to look across the line of print using their finger. Okay, so they read very simple sentences, and they learn to match one-to-one here. They read and reread simple text to help them gain that gradual control. So in kindergarten, you're going to see they're bringing those books home again, and they're practicing, and they're really, really trying to gain control of that print. By the end of the year, the expectation is a DE or above. And with the DE or above, you can already see that there is a difference in the text. So with the E, they can have up to 8 lines on a page. And then they're flexible enough to process the text with varied placement of the print. So because when we think about with the A, the print is pretty much going to be consistent throughout the book in the same place. But then with an E, with their eyes, they're going to be able to have the text in various places to read. Another big difference from the A, in the A book at the beginning of the year, our friends are using their finger to point to each word. But whereas actually, even before they get to the D or the E, the finger is out and they are able to track the print with their eyes. So the finger comes out even at a level C. So our friends are not pointing to the words anymore. That's A and B at the very beginning for that. So remember that tracking the print becomes automatic, and they can take apart longer words with inflected endings, and they rely much more on print than they do on the illustrations, okay? The illustrations are supportive, but they're not sufficient enough to predict the story. And so when they are also expected to know a large number of high-frequency words. So that is the growth that takes place in kindergarten. First grade. So first grade, they enter first grade with their D or E. That is the expectation or higher. And for some of our friends who are not yet, remember our teachers are doing those instructional groups to whereas they are moving our students quickly. Okay, so when we look at the end of the year expectation for first grade, we look at the levels J and K. And so with this, they process a wide range of genres. So they're not just reading one particular genre, they have a wide range of genres that they read. They read illustrated chapter books. They have multiple episodes related to a single plot. And there is a great deal of dialogue. And so we know that the way when we're encountering a lot of dialogue, that the way that we're thinking, the way that we're reading, sounds completely different. So they are quickly able to apply word-solving strategies. They are able to use multi-syllable words with inflected endings. They read a wide range of plurals, contractions, and possessives. And so with that, that is a huge change for some of our friends, because with just simply with the plurals and with the possessives is not something that they've encountered in kindergarten. So that is a big takeaway for first grade. And so next, then, when we look at second grade, beginning of the year, they are those JK texts that we just discussed. But then the end of the year is like an MN, and you can look at the amount of text on these pages also. And when we think here for our MN, so with that, readers know the characteristics of a range of genres. They do a lot of the longer series books, poems, plays, and graphic texts. They read short nonfiction texts, mostly on single topics. And they are able to use and identify structural patterns. They read and solve words smoothly and automatically in both silent and oral reading. Okay? They can read and understand descriptive words. And in oral reading, they demonstrate all aspects of smooth, fluent reading. So when we're thinking about this jump with this, our friends, they should be expressive, but the reading should sound like talking. Okay, so third grade, the beginning of the year, third grade, is like we said, is the same for the MN that the end of the year, second grade. But then for the end of the year, the expectation is that our students are reading at a PQ or above. And with that, they automatically read and understand a wide range of texts. They read fiction and nonfiction texts in various forms, so they're reading like letters, diaries, news articles, and journals. They have many complex characters who develop and change over time. Most of the reading is silent, and they read and understand text in a various layout, so not just the same structure. They should be able to read several different types of layouts here. And as you can see, this is a slightly different layout than the one for the beginning of the year. Okay, so fourth grade, beginning of the year, is the PQ that we just looked at, but the end of the year expectation is a ST or higher. Okay, and so when we look at the T here, readers will process a very wide range of genres. They understand perspectives different from their own. They have many longer descriptive words. And readers understand text features such as copyright information, author's notes, indexes. They have a full range of word-solving strategies. And readers are able to make connections across text by themes and ideas, topics, and writing styles. Okay? So a lot of growth is happening for our friends here. Fifth grade, beginning of the year, is the ST. And then end of the year, expectation is the VW. And when we look at the W text, they can automatically and skillfully adjust to strategic actions. Readers will encounter more themes and mature themes that expand their knowledge of social issues. They look at author's tone. Reading is silent. Themes are multidimensional and may be understood on several levels. But when they do read aloud, fluency is well established. Okay, and so just to let you know, too, that after our session, I do have some text sitting out on the table. So if you do want to look at some of these levels, then most definitely stop by the table. Okay, so in your packet, you do have some resources, and they are actually from our district, and they are on the literacy skill builders here. That is, and so they have it broken up to where you have skill builders for grades K through 2 and then for 3-5. So those are suggestions there to help your students. Okay, so now we wanted to talk a little bit about math. So number sense is the foundation for all higher level mathematics. And when students work on rich mathematics problems, they develop number sense. And they also learn and can remember math facts. So when students focus on memorizing times tables, they memorize facts without number sense, which means that they are limited to what they can do and are prone to make errors. The best way to develop fluency with numbers is to develop number sense and to work with numbers in different ways, not to blindly memorize without number sense. So really we want to talk about that fluency. It comes when students develop number sense. I know that some of us of a particular age that we learn to memorize our times tables and to do that. That is not what's effective for our students in the long run. Giving them opportunities to be flexible with numbers and understand that is what really develops that number sense. So when they are mathematically confident because they understand what numbers can do, then that is what brings about that fluency for them. Okay, so we're sort of moving away from speed and memorization and more so just being flexible with what numbers, so really understanding deeply what numbers can do. Sorry, did you have a question?
What would you recommend for helping them with fluency?
Okay, so yeah, so in your packet too, that there are things that are just being flexible with numbers. So which there are some great problems in here, suggestions. But even when we think about 21 minus 16, some of our students would look at that, they would automatically think, oh, I'm just going to count backwards. But instead, if they could be flexible with numbers, then they may know, wow, 20 minus 15 is a way that I know how to get to that faster than I could do 21 minus 16. So it's just that thinking of really being flexible with our numbers is definitely going to help with the fluency. And when you look in your packet, on that second page, there are 12 activities to help build number sense here. And so these are a lot of great little games that you could do with your students with, matching numbers, writing number words, and then on the back we have the 12 real-life word problems for K-5 math practice. These are really good. And this is what really brings math to life, and with just letting our students really understand how numbers work and how they can be flexible. That's what's going to build that number sense. And also there's, in your packet, you also have 12 online games that are in there that are also good to use. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about the fluency, the fact fluency. It has been it's a big push with our district right now because they want parents to know it isn't memorization or fast facts, okay? So the resources that I just shared with you in the packet, they are on our website, and I will have that listed there, but there is a tab for parent resources, and there are several resources listed there to help to support this work. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about what your students do experience in math. In kindergarten, students learn to count, compare numbers, investigate addition and subtraction, measure and analyze data. Students also learn about 2D and 3D shapes. First grade, students construct the meaning of numbers based on their relationship to one another, along with meaning of the operations to make sense of mathematics. They develop an understanding of addition and subtraction strategies and build on their understanding of place value. And so there are some great resources in this packet to support that work. If after the session, if you have questions about some of these, then most definitely I will be available to talk to you about those. In second grade, students extend their place value understanding through the hundreds place and apply the understanding to add and subtract within 1,000. They learn measurement skills, including measuring length and telling time to the nearest 5 minutes. They deepen their understanding of plane and solid figures and start developing multiplication concepts. Grades 3 through 5, students learn to multiply, divide within 100, add and subtract 3-digit numbers, develop fraction concepts, measure area, perimeter, and elapsed time, reason about shapes and their attributes, and create picture and bar graphs. Students also solve 1- and 2-step word problems using all 4 operations. Fourth graders will work on addition and subtraction, as well as multiplication and division of large numbers. Students continue to work with fractions and begin adding and subtracting with like or same denominators. And then fifth grade, they're focusing on developing number sense understanding and using numbers through mathematical operations, fractions, geometry, measurement and data, and algebraic thinking. So the resources that you have in the packet, we talked about with the 12 activities to help build number sense. And then there were the 12 real-life problems for K-5 math practice. And then there are the online games for kids that are here. Okay, so I will be available for some questions. And we did want to go ahead and put those dates up there again for that Dr. Tucker mentioned earlier. The October 14th, the Liturgy Night and Hispanic Heritage Month celebration. And then October 20th to the 21st, there are parent-teacher conferences to where your teachers will go more into detail about your students. And if you have had questions from this would be also a great time to discuss those with your teacher. But I will be available to answer any questions that you may have.